We are live. Good evening, welcome to another Instagram Live. I'm live up there, I'm live here, so my eyes do change just because I'm looking at the recording. Hope you're all well this week. Clocks went back and I hope that you are able to get a little bit of get up and go whilst the weather has got up and gone, because this is the time of year when really things get a bit gloomy.
Did they not change last week?
Yeah, but it's getting even darker, isn't it?
Okay, yeah,
it's getting darker and darker, and you're starting to get a little bit, I guess, losing motivation, really. So we thought we'd come back and roll back our Instagram Lives and talk about things which, well, reiterate some things which are quite common these days. Because we see a lot of runners and a lot of active people. And unfortunately, a lot of active people, there's our daughter in the background, you can't see her in the Instagram Live, but you can in the video. And we know a lot of active people who are getting injured. And there are a few reasons for this, but one of the reasons which no one wants to talk about is age-related injuries. And the big one we're seeing a lot in common now is the Achilles tendon. So ruptures, tears, complete tears as well. So have you injured your Achilles tendon? Do you know people who have? We're going to talk about it today.
Well, we talked about it last week, didn't we? So Chris did a solo episode last week where he talked specifically about Achilles tendons. Today, this is more about understanding why these injuries recur, what to do about it, and as Chris said, the kind of recurring theme, which is age.
Yeah, we try and dance around this topic. Not sure why we do. We like to pretend that we're not getting older, but we are. Doesn't mean that you've got to throw a towel in and completely capitulate to the the aging process. But just understanding more about it can help you prepare for it. And this is the thing. I think in a way to try to get around negative talk around aging, we delude ourselves and we say, oh, well, you know, I'm only as young as you feel. Well, trust me, when you tendon snaps, you'll feel like you're about 86.
People actually ask me why I have a specifically, so I have a Pilates class that's specifically called active aging. And it's not because I don't think older people are capable of doing Pilates. It's just that I've got a class where I specifically program it for age-related issues, which are things like osteoporosis, things that happen post-menopause, arthritis, issues with the joints that are really common things that occur in people as they get older. So that's why I have a class that I specifically program. It's not because we don't think that older people can do certain exercises, because actually I have people from that class that come to my other classes during the week. But it's related to this topic in that there are things that we cannot change about the way our bodies change as we get older. What we can do is train around them so that we can keep running into our 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s. But this is what we're talking about today. Why is it that, particularly in our demographic at the moment, sort of 40s and 50s, we are noticing that people that have perhaps taken up running during lockdown, or maybe cancelled their gym memberships and so decided to run instead, are now finding they're starting to get some recurrent injuries. So this is really, there's a big issue that, and actually it was new. I didn't know about this until Chris shared it with me. When we were doing you were doing your running injuries webinar, weren't you? And we've still got that on our website, by the way. I will share a link to that below. Really worth watching, because it goes through why, as brilliant as Pilates is, it's just not going to help you with your Achilles tendons. The sort of very simple things that you need to be incorporating into your sessions during the week in order to stay running and to not end up, hopefully, with a ruptured Achilles tendon. So I'm going to hand over to this guy now, because he's the running dude. Yeah,
and even though I'm talking again about Achilles tendons, talked about it last week, this is the other side of it, which does extend itself over to general maintenance with being active and also getting older. We hate saying that word, but I'd rather operate in reality and then know how to manage that. So I mentioned in the running webinar about how we lose our elasticity in our tendons and our ligaments, and this contributes to many injuries. And the main one, which we talked about earlier, was the Achilles tendon ruptures, but it can happen all around the body. And the way to get around this is, the first thing is you must look at your body or your exercise as a way to stay fit and stay active. And then you condition yourself for the thing that helps you to stay fit and active. Whereas when you are younger, you may do those activities to stay fit and active. So a good example is I just run. I run because I like to run, and I...
Sorry, carry
is
on.
that frozen?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm hoping you can still see us.
So people will say, I run because I like to stay fit and active, and it also doubles up as strengthening my body, my bones, my joints, and so on and so forth. That's fine until you get to an age where you need to condition yourself for that thing or that activity which enables you to stay fit and active, namely running. So point being, you get to, I would say, 35, 40, and most people have got to think about conditioning themselves to be able to run. It's the same with swimming, I'd say. It's the same with playing football. And again, some of the Achilles tendon ruptures which we've experienced, and our friends have experienced, have come from those sports. So for example, people who've played football for a long period of time, they play five-a-side football with their friends, and they've been doing the same thing, and they say, oh, it just went. It doesn't just go, because of these things we talked about earlier, which is aging, tendons become stiffer, lack of condition, and also, again, a topic we don't like to talk about, but strength to weight ratio, putting on weight as well, which can place more strain on the tendons and ligaments and the joints as well. So they're things that we've got to really consider. And again, let's just not be too precious about what's going on with the body and know how to manage that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So I know one of the key changes that happens around that time is that your bones are no longer growing in the same way as they would as a youthful person. Yeah. Does that have an impact on this, or is that a slightly different subject?
It's a similar thing, because kids, well, we call it growing pains, which again is a topic for another conversation, is a broad term, which just it's explaining that the growth plates pull on the attachments for tendons and ligaments as well too, but mainly tendons, and you can get painful points around those areas.
Can you just clarify for anyone watching this the difference between a tendon and a ligament?
Tendon attaches a bone to a muscle. Ligament is just bone to bone. So in the ankle, where you've got ligaments on the inside and the outside of the ankle, they just connect bone to bone. Whereas tendon is where the muscles of a bicep, for example, where your bicep goes down into the real, the thin stringy parts you can feel towards the end of the muscle. That's your tendon.
And that's why the Achilles tendon has so much strain, because you've got the muscle and it's attaching to the calcaneus, isn't it, on the ankle bone?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. That word just popped into my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so this is the issue. So your bones have stopped growing, so the plates harden. You've got the Achilles tendons that dry up. And perhaps if you put on a few pounds during lockdown as well, and you're not conditioning, it's like a kind of, well, this is one part of the puzzle. The other part of the puzzle, which Chris talked about last week, was the fact that there is often our cardiovascular systems, our respiratory systems improve before those tendons have adapted to the load that we're putting on them. So you might think, what this means in layman's terms is you might think, well, I'm getting fitter, I'm going to run a bit further, or oh, I missed my runs this week, so I'm going to just do 10k at the weekend rather than, and actually one of the things I notice a lot when I see people sharing their training plans is that they, because of the strains and stresses on life, that they haven't got time perhaps to train when they want to train, they put all of their longer runs together, like on consecutive days. No, don't do that. So it's about thinking about how your tendons need to adapt to your increased running schedule.
Yeah, I think people underestimate what happens to the body when you get older, and also I think they think because exercise is easy, you just get your heart rate and your lungs up, that's absolutely fine.
I think it's exercise bad rap as well, particularly running's bad for your knees.
Yeah,
can't run anymore, I'm too old, my ankles can't handle it. It's like, no, actually, you just need to be a bit smarter with the way that you train. You
need to manage your expectation levels. Some people are never going to be able to run 10 kilometers. 5 is not necessary. Maybe 2 to 3 is enough. You need to condition yourself for that activity, like I mentioned earlier. And then again, maybe you need to give yourself a bit of a reality check about the fact that maybe are you carrying more pounds than you did this time last year, which is no slight on you as a person. I'm not saying that you need to lose those pounds to run faster, but from a biomechanical point of view, there's more load going down through your ankle and your Achilles if you're heavier than it was if you were lighter. That is,
and that would be the same would be true if you put on muscle as well.
No different.
If you put on muscle mass.
No different.
Or if you suddenly grew like a lot of hair,
No different.
It would be exactly the same thing. Or maybe, you know, you're wearing a weighted vest.
No.
Exactly the same principle.
Because I actually use a weighted vest to get I used to, not I used it for the last year or so, to train my body and my joints to get used for load over, let's say, an hour, to simulate what they'd feel like over 2 to 3 hours at a time. One of the individuals who's actually has torn his Achilles tendon was a very muscular guy. Another one was a 28-year-old dance teacher. So, and he's very, very slim. So it's not necessarily just down to that. So we've got to look at all these factors and figure out what is the most likely cause and then how to mitigate against that. But the number one thing that people need to be doing when they get older is to condition themselves for the things that they enjoy to do. A good example is on a sort of Monday morning is my Monday morning routine. I call it Mobility Mondays, and I'll do a little video so you can see what I do. And all I'm doing now is getting my body used to movement for the week. Now, the weights may be heavy-ish. It's a short workout. I haven't got much time to play around with. However, it's working on all my weaker areas. I'm doing my calf raises. I'm doing my scapular retractors, looking at all the muscles around the shoulder blades. I'm getting the inside of my shoulder joints warmed up as well. And then I'm getting my pushing muscles ready and the pulling muscles ready and the squat and the hinge. So I'm doing all the things which we do in the PE sessions, that you do in Pilates session, I do in gymnastics. I do this all on a Monday to get myself ready for the week. And then Tuesday to Friday, I'm then seeing how my body is or how ready it is for movement. And you know what? Some week it may not be ready for that. But as I'm now, I consider myself a masters athlete, so training to compete at a masters level, I can't train at max level every single day, every single week. It's not possible. In fact, it's probably once every 10 days that I'll go probably very, very hard. Around that, I'm just conditioning myself ready for the point my body can do that. Look at that in contrast to how most people train, and they train like it's the last day they're ever going to train. They train and they lift their weights.
It's all or nothing
it's
approach,
all or nothing.
isn't it? Yeah.
And it's slightly irritating because yes, something's better than nothing, but not when you're training at above 80% or 80% of your max effort. It's not when you're training that hard. It's not really sensible. And this is where you need some guidance from a professional to understand how you actually program, and it's called periodize, how you plan a training program over weeks and months so you can peak at the right time and allow your body a chance to recover. And along the way, you're trying to see how your body's responding to exercise as well. But you must fine-tune that and adapt if on a day you think, actually things don't feel so great, I'm not gonna run today. Great example again, going back to the Achilles, and I've talked about it time and time again because I have managed one for years. Some days my Achilles tendon is so tender I can't walk down the stairs. I'm hobbling down the stairs. Guess what? I'm in a flare-up phase and I cannot load that too much through the week.
Are the times that if I touch it in bed that you get really annoyed with me?
Yeah.
That really hurts.
It is absolutely excruciating agony. You know, being kicked in the nads versus Achilles pain, it's a fine line which is more tender. They are, but you know what? It's a fine line. I would toss a coin and take the hit either way. So I will say to myself, this week is the week where I am just resting and recovering. Doesn't mean that I don't train, it just means I change the load that I'm putting through that Achilles tendon. Same if you had an elbow issue or a shoulder issue or a back issue. And I think once we shift our mindset to understanding how to condition ourselves for the things we enjoy doing, you can then see that it's not doom and gloom if you get injured. I know injuries tend to knock people sideways because you think, oh, I can't train and I can't run.
Yeah.
No, you carry on training, but you just adapt to the training.
Yeah.
If it's a load-based injury, then you've got to take some of the load out. It doesn't mean that you can't train at all. You've got to change what you do. It's having ideas, it's having a plan, and then knowing what is the most likely cause to that. But most importantly, just to go over the same ground again, like I said earlier, is as we get older, we need to keep ourselves well conditioned. So you need to do some kind of conditioning for your body.
So I will share, as I said before, Chris did a webinar on this where he talked about running injuries. So that's a really good entry point. If you're someone who is struggling, this all sounds a bit complicated, watch that. It's like half an hour of your life that you can watch while you're doing the dinner, which I think you'll find really, really useful. We do have a running hub, which we're still working on at the moment, actually, which is really to try and help people with this, because we're aware that, you know, this all sounds... One of the great things about running is it's freedom. You just put your trainers on and you go out the door and you don't want to have to think about all this stuff. So that's why we're doing our best to do it for you. But I think whilst you might think, oh, I don't need all of that, I just want to run. What's really, if you're in pain and if you can't run, that's you know, the outlet, your mental well-being, all of those things that you really need running for, you know, you can't do it. So it's really, really worth investing some time and energy into doing this. And we're not talking about half an hour a day program. We're talking about like 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And also, I do want to add to this, as much as I love Pilates, and I think Pilates is fabulous, and I see a lot on kind of forums, particularly women, I need to do yoga for running, or I need to do Pilates for running because I need to improve my core. Having a stronger core that can do Pilates isn't necessarily going to stop you getting in. Well, it's not going to stop you. You still need to work specifically on your Achilles. Like if you want to be better at Pilates and do Pilates, and yes, there is stuff in Pilates that is fantastic for runners. I'm not saying it's not, but it is not the only form of conditioning that you need. I would say yes, you need it. And when we originally designed our program, it was about you know, like the whole Fit School blueprint. It was about Pilates, it was about mobility, it was about strength and conditioning, it was about fitness, and they all go together. They are the parts of a puzzle. So I would say Pilates is a nice chunk of the puzzle, maybe a quarter to a third. But if you are struggling with niggles in terms of knees and ankles in particular, it is not enough. There is more that you need to do, particularly as you get older. Was that positive enough?
This topic's dynamite. I'm going nowhere near it because you mentioned the two things that trigger people: women, Pilates. And if I go near that, then it's dynamite. So I'm saying nothing.
Pilates is fantastic. You know, if you've got issues around your back, you've been sat down at a desk all day, you do need to get stronger. It's an entry level, it's a nice entry level class for people that want to start doing some strength and conditioning. It's just brilliant. Mobility, all of those things. It's brilliant as part of a program. But you know what I think about it. It's not a cardiovascular program. It doesn't replace everything else. It is part of the puzzle. If you
have an injury and it is down to running, it's highly unlikely that Pilates will be the reason why you have got injured. It'll be down to other things. You can definitely use it as part of your rehabilitation, without question. I think you hit the nail on the head about something which I won't go too much into, which is when you said it's in, well, you're in a lot of female forums, but I know of not many men who teach Pilates who call it running or Pilates for running. I know very little. I'm concerned that people who buy into it think this will solve their problems, and it doesn't. But I question myself when I think, you know, am I being maybe short-sighted with thinking other ways where...
I would disagree with you in that I think Pilates for running has a place, but there's more that you need to do, that's all.
Yeah, I know.
It is, as I said, it is a part of the puzzle. But there's another part of the puzzle, which is your hopping and your stuff, you know, your mobility and your strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
And then there's the cardiovascular conditioning for your running. So that's what I mean. It's like a quarter to a third. So I think it's important to clarify that Pilates for running is fantastic, but that's not going to help your Achilles bear the load in any way. So you still need to do that.
It does. I'm laughing, but I know it's common sense, but it does nothing.
No, it doesn't.
Based on the injuries you mentioned.
Unless you're doing your Pilates and then you between each like little circuit that you're doing, you jump up and you do like 15 hops on each leg. Then it would.
Yeah,
but that's not Pilates. That's hopping.
No, so to balance that out, what I do like is how you will move. And you did that. Your movements when you were away last week is.
You like those, didn't
you? Yeah.
So if anyone hasn't seen it, I'm just choking on my tea. Pilates with Karen.
You are moving in different ways, and unfortunately, because running can be very linear, so you're just running forwards and backwards. Yeah, there's none of this happening.
Sagittal plane, darling.
Yes, it's very good to move in different ways, and that's the bracket I put Pilates into. Different kinds of movement.
Even if I'm doing a 5-minute Pilates session, even if I'm doing a seated, you sat at your desk like this Pilates session, I will always do side to side, forwards and backwards twist, because that's what your back needs. And I you know, I would challenge anyone that's done Pilates with me or done my little mini Pilates breaks on my Pilates with Karen to spot a time when I didn't do all three. Yeah, because it's just what I do.
And that's why I do gymnastics. And again, it took me a while to get used to moving differently, and now I do. My body responds differently. So yes, so definitely pick and choose.
I tell you what, here's my little challenge for myself. I think I might try and do a Pilates for runners and include some hopping.
Yeah, so whilst you're resting, you do your Pilates, and then you're doing your running specific work, which would be your hopping, your calf raises. Yeah, so that would be how to do the ultimate Pilates for running session with Karen. I've got to think of a shorter name for that, maybe an acronym of some sort. But it'll be the ultimate
Pilates.
Yeah, the ultimate Pilates for running class with Karen. Yeah. All right, so I hope that made sense.
Long hashtag, that one. Pilates for running. It's like a bit over.
Hopefully that didn't leave you more lost and you have at least a bit of clarity.
I'm concerned it wasn't very clear.
No, but we have a direction where you can head if you want to know more about this. We will put the link up for you, or you'll put the link, I'm sure.
I would.
You'll put the link up for our webinar that we did on the running injuries. This will be very clear about how you help prevent or lower the chance of injury, increase the power out of your feet and run faster. This will make absolute perfect sense, and it's a bit more concise than what we've been today.
And actually, maybe, I was just thinking, maybe that little session that I was just describing, the Pilates for runners who are in their 40s and 50s, that really long, snappy title, maybe we'll do that as a one-off class, like a one-off session.
Yeah.
If you would like that, let us know, and we will make it happen. If you would also like to climb onto you can't see that if you're on Instagram.
No, I know. So
we have a small person trying to get some crackers.
Yeah.
Behind us.
No.
We're gonna go. I forgot to mention that the reason why I'm looking rather weary and why we're a bit late is because I've just come back from a conference, darling, conference in Newcastle. Literally today. This is the first cup of tea I've managed to have since. Yeah, I got my train back and I arrived back at about 4 o'clock. So, yeah, there will be more on that. But for today, we're going to say goodbye, enjoy, and please ask us questions. Particularly if you've got a specific running niggle that's causing you issues, ask us, because we want to know how we can help people.
All right, we enjoy your evening.
Bye.
Or at time we watch this. See you later.
Bye.